The following program is underwritten by the Nevada Irrigation District. Since 1921, providing clean and healthy drinking and irrigation water to more than 24,000 homes, farms, schools, and businesses in Nevada and Placer counties.
Director of NCTV, and this is NCTV Interviews. We've got a stupendous show today, and one that I know you're going to enjoy. You've heard of national treasures. Well, we have a county treasure, not treasurer, but a county treasure with us today, and will probably be with us quite a few times in the future. This is Bob Wyckoff. He's a local historian. He's a man about town. He's got never-ending stories. And he's really a tremendous person and will begin to take us through some of the history of the area. First, start a little bit about you, Bob, and when you came here and a little bit about what got you started.
Well, let's start out with my California ancestry. I'm a fourth-generation Californian. My family all is from Los Angeles County. Please don't hold that against us. But at the time my ancestor came to Los Angeles County, the population was around 40,000. San Francisco was the largest city in the state and the cultural center of the West at that time. We moved to Nevada County in the late 1950s. I've had an abiding interest in California history, particularly gold rush history, all my life. As a small child, I remember James Wilson Marshall, the man who discovered gold. I went to Marshall High School, but it was John Marshall, the Chief Justice. This was in Los Angeles. But anyway, a study of California history has always been one of my subjects, and I took quite a bit of history in college. In fact, I was working toward a master's degree in California history, but I changed it to journalism, and I've been in journalism up here for 35, 40 years.
And so is that what brought you to the area in the 50s, was journalism?
No, what brought me up here in the 50s was we thought that the peninsula, we came up from Palo Alto, we thought the peninsula was getting a little crowded. So we moved to Nevada County. At that time had a population of around 19,000. The population of Palo Alto, I think, at that time was about 8,000 or 9,000. All three of my children were born in Palo Alto, and so was their mother. But we came up here. We'd been through here many times in the summer, going up camping up above Bassett Station, up above Sierra City. And we liked the area and decided, okay, we'll make a move. We moved up here and got a little place 2 acres out the Colfax Highway, and that's history. That was about almost 50 years ago that we've been here.
And you've been taking photographs for how long?
All the time since I've been up here, and I don't know what caused me to do it, but I love to drive the backcountry in my little 1958 Volkswagen and take pictures of what I saw. And many of the photographs that I took in the early years, in the late 50s, early 60s, everything is gone now. There's nothing left of some of that thing. In about 1962, the late Bob Ingram, who was then publisher of the Union, when the Union was down on Mill Street, 151 Mill Street, hired me as staff photographer when they went offset from the old letterpress type of printing. And I continued to take photographs. Unfortunately, when the Union moved from Mill Street to the Glenbrook Basin, many of the negatives that I took were lost. And that's unfortunate because many of those things, a complete documentation, I know the Nevada Irrigation District has documentation of the Yuba Bear River project, but I also documented it for the Union. Now that was what, 40 years ago that they built they made Rollins Dam higher, they built Jackson Meadows Dam and did the project, and I took pictures almost weekly of that and then other events that took place. But I have my own negative file. It's in horrible condition as far as that it's not cataloged, but anyway.
I understand what that's like. So you can begin to understand what a treasure Bob is. A lot of the photographs, in fact, most of them are black and white, and you know, they're not JPEG images, they're not digitized, but one of the purposes of this show is to extend a historical archive, and now we've begun to add your photographs and other, but you know, and you've got a substantial number of photographs.
Well, I'm lucky in that I did do it, and as I said, I don't know whether I had a premonition or what, but I do have a number of photographs dating back 30, 40, 45 years. In fact, that's what I like to do. I like to write my feature stories for the Union in a time frame that people can understand. They've either lived through it or it's close enough that they can remember it. 19th century is wonderful. It's been documented and documented and documented. But the last 40 or 50 years, 30, 40, 50 years, is a period of time that's pretty much overlooked. And I try to keep within that frame. I do go back further from time to time, but I like to write about particularly things that I remember and that I've experienced. And I've had good luck. I've had a lot of people comment they enjoy that.
And the changes have been so rapid that people don't think of grabbing a photograph of that store or street or story that's been happening. So it's valuable.
Sometimes I'll take a photograph and I have maybe 3 or 4 of the same object or building through the years, and I document the changes. I did that recently with one of my history features for the Union. I ran 3 or 4 different pictures of the same building over a period of, say, 30 years, and that's fun to do.
So just to begin to show the sort of compilation of what Bill has been able to do, and we'll show you the covers as well. You have published 4 books.
These are self-published.
These are self-published books, Pedestrian's Guide to
Nevada.
This is the latest book.
Yeah, this is the one the Union is publishing right now, and the 2 photographs in the background. The top one, now this is my Nevada City Walking Tour book. That's in its 7th edition. I published that first in 1976, and I continually upgrade it as we go along to bring things up to date. And this is the hydraulicking the North Bloomfield to Malakoff Diggins State Historic Park. I was fortunate enough to be part of the committee that lobbied long and hard, lobbied Sacramento to get them, the state parks, to include that in their park system, and we were successful. And in 1966, we dedicated the park. It had its first ranger up there, and again, I was fortunate enough to speak on hydraulic mining, and the master of ceremonies at that time was the late Bob Payne. But the park has proven itself as a great interpretive feature of that destructive form of mining, hydraulic mining.
And it's a beautiful park.
It is. It's magnificent. It works just fine.
And so you also have a number of other publications.
Now this is the Grass Valley Walking Tour book. It's in its 5th edition. Again, we try to update things as there are major changes. The photograph on the cover is one that's been reproduced and reproduced and reproduced. But I think it's typical of the area, and it shows them going through the gravels looking for little flecks of gold after a rainstorm back in the, I think it's the 1880s.
And this looks like to be a main street of some kind.
It is. It's Main Street looking easterly toward Auburn Street and beyond, toward Hills Flat.
So people are actually out in the gravel looking for gold.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. All of these books are available, including this next one, which many people have heard of, and you've written a play about.
We did. Whoops! There goes the pasty. We missed the railroad. But the Never Come Never Go Railroad was our little narrow gauge that ran from Grass Valley, or from Nevada City to Grass Valley and then on to Colfax. And we did, back in 1962, Bill McSims, who at the time was the music teacher at the Nevada City Elementary, wrote the music, and together we wrote the lyrics, and I wrote the book. There it is, and we produced it down in the old ice house on the plaza that was owned by Florence Kendrick, the late Florence Kendrick. She loaned it to us, and we remodeled it into a little theater, and it was very, very successful. And from that play, the movement to buy the Nevada Theater as a Center for Performing Arts was born, and after that, Liberal Arts Commission was formed, and we feel very warm that we had something to do with kindling the idea of more little theater in western Nevada County.
So really, you have been in the beginning of institutional building. You know, the Nevada Theater is an institution now.
Well, yes, I feel very proud to have had a hand in it. Right. There are many other people too, but I was on the, let's say, on the first committee to help get it going.
So now, all of these books are available.
Yes, they're available locally in Nevada City at Harmony Books, at the Nevada City Chamber of Commerce. Tom Coleman has them upstairs in the lobby of the National Hotel, and over at SPD, they're there by the magazine rack. In Grass Valley, the bookseller, and at the County Chamber of Commerce office on Mill Street.
So if you are a history buff, or if you've recently moved to the area, these are books that are unique and since Bob is both a journalist and a photographer, it's well written with a lot of interesting stories, of some of which we'll go over today.
Yes, and also it's there's quite a few typographical errors in there, since much as I like to think I'm not infallible, I am fallible. And I set all the type on the computer, and unfortunately the typos got by me. But that's all right.
But not with this latest book, right?
No, that has been proofed by a cast of thousands, let's say.
And what generated this recent publication?
Well, I think what it was Jeff Ackerman, the publisher of the Union, who also was a reporter for the Union back in the 1980s, at the time that I was publishing the Nevada City Independent. Jeff knew my work, and I think he was the one that appreciated the local angle of my stories, and it was the Union that just asked me if we could work together on publishing at least 50 of my stories, and that again makes me feel very proud that they came to me. I didn't ask them.
So also, besides the book, you could go online at the Union and type in Bob Wyckoff and receive a host of stories. There's something like hundreds of stories that you've written.
I have been doing 2 a month plus a few extras for the last 7 years at the Union for this stint. As I said, I was a staff photographer back in the early days, a contributor when Mike Fitzgerald was editor, and when some other former editors going back 15, 20 years. But I did a lot of time with the Nevada City Independent. In fact, in 1969, the late Paul Webster and I started the paper in July 1969. It went on for about 13 years until we sold it, and the people that bought it, it didn't work out for them, and so it's no longer published. But during that time also, I spent quite a bit of time as a correspondent for the late Sacramento Union. I did feature stories for them and covered events as a reporter up here. I also had a great time and a great rapport with the couple of people at the Los Angeles Times. I got some pictures for them and so on. But it's fun. I've done a lot of freelancing as well as working full-time as a reporter-photographer.
Well, why don't we begin looking at the publication?
Good.
And we're obviously going to run out of some time, but we'll continue this at future shows.
Here we have William Morris Stewart, who was the first U.S. Senator from the state of Nevada. He was also a district attorney here in Nevada County. We like William Morris Stewart because the Ancient and Honorable Order of E. Clampus Vitus named a chapter in his honor, the William Morris Stewart chapter number 8591 of the Ancient and Honorable Order of E. Clampus Vitus, now combined with the William Bull Meek chapter. But Bill Stewart was quite a man. He was tall. He also made a fortune in mining. He also self-taught legal, read law in various offices, went to the state of Nevada. We claim that he took the name with him because we had the name here 14 years before there was a state of Nevada. We feel that he honored us by using the name. However, an interesting sidelight on this is in 1964, when the state of Nevada was celebrating its centennial of statehood, we at the Grass Valley Union, the late city editor Pete Ingram and I, and Don Hoagland, the late Don Hoagland, got together and decided to charge the state of Nevada with stealing our name. And that'll be one of the stories that you will read in the forthcoming book by the union. We gave them the option of giving the name back or starting to pay royalties. We involved then Governor Edmund G. Pat Brown with the Nevada governor, Grant Sawyer. We had them arguing back and forth. We burned up the wires, AP, UPI, and all the rest of them, had just had a ball with it.
Right.
And then we had a peace conference at the National Hotel, which was also older than the state of Nevada, and just had a ball with this thing. It called attention to their centennial, and of course did well for us over here. We got a lot of mileage out of it.
That's great. It's great to have fun, not hurt anybody in the process.
That's what I like to do. Right. Here we go. 1969, March. It was a snowy, cold day at the Empire Mine when they set charges of dynamite and down went the head frame, 3 stories tall. The last emblem of gold mining in western Nevada County was the head frame at the Empire.
So did this have to be removed for safety purposes?
The Newmont mining people claimed that it was rotting through and that the insurance people were telling them, you better get rid of that. It's a nuisance. Kids were climbing on it. There may be gigantic lawsuits. A lot of people didn't see it that way, but it didn't belong to us. So all we could do was stand there. And I think I'm the only one that got black and white stills. Channel 3 from Sacramento sent a crew up. The late Mike Boyd was the reporter, and I don't recall who the photographer was, videographer, excuse me. But I have pictures of this going down, and this story will be in the book, forthcoming book from the Union. Excuse me. Now this is the way it looks today at the main shaft at the Empire. Looking down, the state of California has put a man skip there on the right, you see behind the railings, and they have lighted the shaft as it heads down on the incline underground. This is a very, very interesting representation of hard rock mining, but this is part of the Empire Mine State Historic Park.
Are there any other parks that illustrate or give tours to something like this?
Well, what we have in the state park system is we have the interpretive parks. We have the hard rock interpretive park, or lode mining, or quartz mining, which is the Empire. We have hydraulic mining, which is up at the Wyckoff. Those are 2 types. We have mountain mining, Plumas Eureka, up in Plumas County. We have Bodie. I think that's in Mono County. That's interpretive of desert mining. And then, of course, in El Dorado County, we have Gold Discovery Park at Coloma. So these are the parks that interpret different types of gold mining, and we have 2 out of them right here in Nevada County. And as I say, I was on the committee that helped get the first one, which was the hydraulic at the Wyckoff, came before the Empire. From that, then came the Empire. And now, excuse me, now both of them are very well attended. Here we have the old suspension bridge across Deer Creek in Nevada City, built by Andrew S. Halliday, who is really better known for his wire cables, which allowed those little cable cars to still climb halfway to the stars. We're looking south on Pine Street across this bridge, which lasted up until 1903, when it was replaced by the old Galt Bridge because it couldn't handle the loads, the modern automobiles and the heavier traffic that was called for across Deer Creek there on South Pine. So they chopped the cables off, and on the right-hand side in the photograph, down at the bottom, they cut the cable just a little bit below the ground, and as they were excavating to build the bridge that is there today, the Pine Street Bridge today, they unearthed the anchors of this bridge. Now, I'm not sure whether we included a picture of that in the story about Andrew S. Halliday in the New Union book that's coming out, but they uncovered the anchors of the north side of the bridge. But this bridge served until 1903 when the Galt Bridge replaced it. That served until 1996 when the present bridge, which is a true representation of the bridge that it replaced, was put into commission. So anyway, Halliday was, there he is, there's Andrew. He also was quite a civic leader in San Francisco and a trustee at the University of California. He died, I think it was 1900, but quite a civic-minded person. He came from Scotland. The family name was Smith. He took the name Halliday to honor his uncle, who was a physician to Queen Victoria in England. But he took the name Smith and came to this country. Now here we go. We're up in French Corral. This is a monument to the first long-distance telephone line that ran from French Corral up the mountain to Milton Reservoir in Sierra County. It was I think 1878. I'm a little fuzzy on trying to remember all the dates. My mind is, I think I remember my birthday. I'm not sure though. But anyway, the first long-distance telephone line ran from French Corral about 60 miles up the mountain up to Milton Reservoir in Sierra County.
So when you say first long-distance line, you're meaning a rural line or the first line here?
No, the first line in the world of any long distance.
Really?
Now, AT&T claims there was one that ran in Hartford, Connecticut, but it was 3 years later, and it was taken down almost 6 months after it opened up. This thing ran clear up until it was replaced in 1908 with a stronger, heavier duty.
And so how did French Corral ever get a long-distance phone line?
Because it was a center for water distribution and hydraulic mining offices. In those days, the San Juan Ridge was the center of hydraulic mining. And French Corral, there were hydraulic diggings there at French Corral, and water, which was all essential to hydraulic mining. Water companies had their home offices there and in North San Juan. So, oh, here we go. Now we're at Gold Discovery Marker, as it is there in Grass Valley right now at Jenkins Street. This tells about George McKnight finding gold in place, which is called the second great gold discovery in California. This monument was placed in 1929 by the native daughters and the native sons to commemorate the event. What they call the second gold rush, the gold in place, which started the great mining industry in western Nevada County. The Empire, the North Star, the Pennsylvania, the Idaho, Maryland, all of them got their start because a guy named George McKnight happened to stumble upon a rock with gold in it, and that started the whole idea. And here's where it originally
Eventually brought us McKnight Way.
That's exactly right. That's right. This is the monument as it stood over on Cornwall Street before they moved it, because they had to move it for a subdivision. But anyway, it commemorates the great event. And here we have Dr. Jones of Jones, the Doctors Jones. He and his, I think it was 2 sons. There's a story about it in the book coming out from the Union. The one that's coming out from the Union. The Old Jones Hospital, which is in the next photograph, should be in the on South School. There we go. There it is. There's it's now today. It's the Swan Levine House. But this picture was about, I think I took that in about 1961. It was still open as a hospital, and it was. Well, there were 2 hospitals. There was the county hospital, and then there was Miss Watson had a sanitarium on Coyote Street in Nevada City, but this was really one of the first, if not the first, full private hospital in...
Was there a public hospital at all?
Well, a county hospital.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, here we go. The remnants of a pasty, a Cornish pasty on the plate. Delicious. The walking meat pie, the comestible, there we are. Now this was taken in London in front of Euston Station, and pasties over there are all over the place. And Cornwall, of course, is the home of the pasty, and it was a great mainstay of all the Cornish miners who were over here. But we have them today, Marshall's pasties, about the only survivor, and they're very good.
They are, and she does a great job.
Oh, yes. But, of course, Mrs. Marshall, the matriarch, has been gone for a number of years now. But it continues on to be a good industry.
Right.
A lot of Crabtree's house on Mill Street in Grass Valley. It doesn't look much like that today. All the overhangs have been removed. It's painted white. In this house, Mrs. Crabtree had a boarding house that she ran back in the 1850s when little Lotta, her daughter, little red-haired gal, cute little thing, happened to walk next door, 2 houses down, where the famous or infamous Lola Montez lived. And the stories are, the legend is, that Lola Montez taught little Lotta Crabtree how to dance. Little Lotta went on to completely overshadow her mentor. This is Lotta's Fountain in San Francisco on Market Street. You see the Palace Hotel in the background behind the bus on the left-hand side. She gave that to the city of San Francisco. Originally, it was a horse watering trough around the base. Little Lotta was a benefactress to many, many of the animal shelters and the humane societies.
So does this mean that as a dancer she was tremendously successful and as an entertainer?
It is claimed she was the first millionaire in American show business, and that she continued on up until the early part of the 20th century. Here's little Lotta as a demure little thing in one of her early productions. But she toured the mining camps as a child, and of course the miners were overjoyed to see a small entertainer, a child. They hadn't seen kids for ages, you know. And she did a good job of entertaining the miners. And then she did shows in San Francisco and around the state. And her mother was her manager, and she saw, there she is, scandalizing the world, smoking, having her picture taken, smoking a little cigar.
Yeah, not just a cigarette.
No, this was a little cigarette sort of thing.
Cigarello.
But she never married, and she was very demure and short. She was just a little over 5 feet tall, red hair, curly hair, and was a darling of American show business in the late 19th century. Left all her money to charity. Of course, she never married, but upon her death, there were many, many supposed relatives and sons and daughters came forth to try to claim part of her estate. But she left it all to charity.
Mm-hmm. And we have her sort of historical remnants here.
Yes, the house in which she lived as a child.
Well, I was reminiscing with Bob about Lotta Crabtree because in my history, running one of the first private schools here in the county, Sunflower School, at least in the recent history, yeah. We actually had a Lotta Crabtree and Lola Montez festival, yep. And Bob has a poster.
Which I'm going to present to Lou.
And this was in the early 70s, so it really is a comment on our shared history that we didn't know we shared.
Yes, correct.
So the music is upon us, and that indicates that we are at the end of our show, but this is just the beginning. It's really a discovery of gold here in the studios of NCTV, and I want to thank Bob very much for being with us, and you will be back.
My pleasure, Lou. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And please tune in to NCTV in the future. You can see what we're about. We want to help remember the history of our area. Please become a member, and thank you for watching.
The following program is underwritten by the Nevada Irrigation District. Since 1921, providing clean and healthy drinking and irrigation water to more than 24,000 homes, farms, schools, and businesses in Nevada and Placer counties.